Well, the Supreme Court has made major rulings in two immigration cases. The High Court said the Trump administration can continue to deport suspected Venezuelan gang members under an 18th century wartime law. But there are conditions. And the Chief Justice paused a lower court order requiring the White House to bring a man back to the U.S. who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador. CBS News Justice Department reporter Jake Rosen is in our Washington bureau covering these cases for us. Jake, thanks for being here. Let's start with the deportation flights. Can you explain the Supreme Court's ruling and the conditions they imposed?
That's right, Michael. It was a 5-4 ruling in favor of the government in this case, in which the Supreme Court decided that there was no due process for any of the people who were deported in those three flights on March 15th. The Supreme Court ruled yes in favor of the Trump administration in that it can continue these deportations after invoking the Alien Enemies Act. So those Venezuelan men who are over 14 years old, who they believe are potentially members of the Tren de Aragua gang, may continue to be deported. However, at the same time, the Supreme Court wrote in full, and all 9 justices agreed with this, that there needs to be some kind of validation and processing of people's claims before they're deported. They cannot just be brought on planes, brought to that CCOT prison, that Supermax prison in El Salvador, and then basically have the government wash their hands of them and say, well, you're down there, it's not our problem whether you're a gang member or not, which is what they've currently been arguing across a number of cases. There has to be some moment and opportunity for these men to go to their attorneys or go to a court and say, hey, I'm not a gang member. I need a court hearing to potentially prove that. In addition to that, all these court cases that are in D.C. currently are no longer fitting. The Supreme Court ruled they have to be brought where these people are actually being detained.
Now, Jake, I want to ask about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, deported mistakenly despite a court-issued protective order. What's next in his case?
Well, that's right. The plaintiffs for him, the lawyers for him and the plaintiffs in this case filed their Supreme Court brief last night in counter to the government's arguments. The government has argued that they have no way to bring him back because they cannot compel the Salvadoran government to do so. However, even these justices in this Supreme Court case we were just talking about say that there has to be some kind of accountability for the government here to bring him back after that district court order in Maryland. We'll see what happens as this plays out. There's currently an indefinite pause on bringing him back. Very likely we get a decision sometime soon, given the Supreme Court has already addressed some of these claims in their decision yesterday.
All right, a lot to follow. Jake Rosen, thanks for joining us.